And this is more designed to kind of just get people thinking and moving on things than it is a typical workshop. So she might want to leave now, don't just tease it. But the first hour I thought we would do teaching grants, right? And then in the second hour, teaching awards. If and people could, maybe there'll be different people showing up at 2 o'clock or leaving, whatever, that's totally up to you guys. All right, but I will wait till 2 o'clock to start the awards in case there's people who are only going to show up at, so 3 o'clock, thank you, yes, at 3 o'clock to get that started. Okay, so if you would tell me just a little bit what you're what awards, what grants you're interested in, because everybody's interested in grants, which particular grant you're interested in, or just here to find out what grants are out there, something a little bit about what you're hoping to get from the session.
Yeah, so the Teaching Enhancement Grant. And
I'm sorry, so let's give me 1 second. Now where is Sohi? I know she's on here somewhere. Okay, got Sohi. And Elena, Heather Lynn's already signed in for you.
Oh, thank you. It was by accident. It was just automatic.
Okay. All right, well actually this is now, and Sonia, I got you then. You're here twice, I don't know. Okay. So only ones who don't have is Karen Smith and Kathy. Okay. Yeah, so we have some hot water and some instant equipment to make instant beverages. Okay. So as I was just telling everybody, the first hour will kind of deal with teaching grants, and the second hour will be teaching awards. So we were just getting started to go around the table with people indicating what teaching grants they're interested in, and or why they want, why they're here, what they're hoping to get out of it, type thing. Okay? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So
I'm here to make sure I know how to prepare a really good. Was it teaching grants?
No, now it's grants.
It's grants.
grants.
Yes.
Yeah. And so which ones are you particularly interested in?
The leaf.
Leaf. Okay.
We're also working on LIP.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then Sohi?
Yeah, also leaf.
Leaf. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then you said teaching. All right. I mean, I'm gonna cover them all, but I just thought we might. I don't know. It's always nice to know anyway. Yes. Ivanka?
Yeah.
Okay.
See grant?
Okay. Oh, so so that would be. That's a leaf. That's a small leaflet, kind of, right? Right. All right. Leaf, small. Okay.
I was wanting to get an overview.
An overview. Okay. All right. Sonia, what's your info?
Teaching enhancement.
Ah. Okay. All right.
I'm definitely interested in overview,
Yeah.
the LEAP grants, and also how to write a good grant. Like
Yeah.
What is the structure that is?
Yeah. So that's probably where I'm least material here, but I'm pretty good at winging it. Okay, and Alana?
It's a small leaf, and I
Uh-huh.
also made an application, didn't submit it yet for the assessment grant.
Assessment grant. Okay. So that's a UTSC
UTSC
assessment
CTL assessment.
grant. Okay, got it. All right. All right, perfect. All right, well, let's see what we've got here. I think I went back and forth about which way to organize these, but I think I did it just in order. So first I thought I'd just overview, especially one of these you may not even know about. I'm surprised we don't have more applicants for this, right? But so anyway, so UTSC, I'm gonna go all over all of them once, and then circle back around to each of them with more details. Okay, so we have teaching grants, all right? So we have what we call teaching assessment grants, and those are most of the time is to hire people to create something that you need. Okay. Then we have software grants, typically to buy a site license for something. We have teaching equipment grants, and then we have these teaching assessment grants. That's the CTL sort of administered granting program, and it occurs twice per year. We try to have it in mid-October and again in mid-March. That way people's teaching load is heavy in one part of the year or the other, they have time to do it. Okay? Now this is the one that I'm trying to promote. We also have teaching professional development reimbursement, so that every faculty member can get up to $300 a year toward a conference that they want to go to, or sometimes workshops can be pretty expensive if it was something like project management or something like that relative to your course. So they need pre-approval, but these are on a rolling basis. You just contact Janice Patterson. All of these are on our website, and say what it's for, and she will say, yes, that's eligible, no, that's not eligible. And then once if you go, you'll have to pay for it. But if she's approved it, then she will reimburse you for up to $300. And that's once per fiscal year, so May 1st through April 30th. And we only had about I think about 13 people take advantage of it. I mean, if everybody took advantage of it, we'd be up the creek, but that hasn't seemed to be a problem so far. Only about 13 people last year took advantage of this. Now, this is another one that we did this year, okay? That we're also willing to provide matches to other programs. So, for example, no one mentioned the regular ITIF grant.
That's what I'm interested in.
But that one requires a match, okay? One of the two requires a match, or actually one of the three requires a match, so you could apply to CTL for the match. We really want to get those a month before the deadline, and we only provide the money if you get the other grants, right? Okay, so that's the ones over on the UTSC ones, and I'm going to come back around to them, but I thought, see what's out there, and then you can, pay more attention as we go into the different ones. Now, U of T has some grants, right? Another one that's not known very much because they don't really very actively promote it. There's just a website that they have. And this is for online undergraduate course initiatives. And the nice thing about this is a rolling basis, okay? So if you wanted to, say, have your class where sometimes you talk about blended or flipping a class where you might take at least a third of your content to be eligible for this, where you might take some of your lectures and instead make videotapes or text-based materials so that you could then spend class time working problems or doing things that were higher level that you wanted to. So creating online components of your course or completely creating an online course, either one. Just a third of the content but it has to be at least a third of the content, and they actually want to see where you're liberating a classroom for a third of the time. So like I have 3 meetings, 3 hours worth of, I have 3 hours for my genetics class. I would be eligible if I took 1 hour of my genetics class and converted it to online material so that I only met with my students, say 2 hours. So, and that's just a question of contacting Lori Harrison downtown. If you're interested, I can always help connect you with the right person. And starting talking to her. She typically wants a person to go to the online institute. And they also will do it for online courses, like to completely make an online course. I think it's about $8,000 to help you make an online course, and $5,000, something like that, if you want to take part of your course and convert it into an online material. So Elaine, you have a question about that
I
one?
was wondering if these PowerPoints are available to us, or do
Oh,
you have a handout?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm having a little hard week for reading me. All right. Now, I also have these handouts where I actually tried to just cut and paste everybody's grant information. But some of them were a little tricky because you had to keep going to tabs. And if I remember to copy all the tabs, I'm not completely sure. But thank you, Elaine, for getting those out. Okay. So then the next one would be the instructional technology, and I'm going to go over each of them again. I just kind of want to give you all the names, right? So the one that I just talked about, the online undergraduate one, has a rolling deadline, meaning you can apply any time of the year. The Instructional Technology Initiative Fund only has one competition per year, and the deadline's coming up pretty fast, November 10th, all right? And this one really funds educational technologies, kind of the beginning and the end of the story. Hey, Kathy, come on in. No problem. Let's see. Whenever the handouts come back around, we'll have to get you set.
No more copies of the first one, whatever you.
Should have enough. I'm at 10, I think. Right.
Oh.
So
If not, you can have this one, I can just.
okay. So you don't. But that's your only copy.
Yeah.
And this is the teaching for what's this. Oh, you actually just. Oh, you're sharing at the moment. Yeah. So.
I can go and photocopy.
No, I don't think that's worth it. So you give up your you're giving up your copy, Sohi, and I'll have to send you a copy. Okay, sounds good. Pester me if I forget. My track record doesn't look to be that good. Okay, so this one is really about developing technologies. Like Elaine has already had an instructional technology grant to develop kind of a vocabulary accelerator or enhancer, or did I get those?
Vocabulary
Expansion accelerator. So he has had one to kind of create a leaderboard in your statistics courses where the students submit their stuff and the excitement is generated at who's winning the competition. So, well, there's rates. That's just the ones that pop into my head at the moment. And then there's the LEAF grants. Okay. Now, and I'm going to go back all over these because there's 3 different ones on these. But I was just wanting to give you the range of them first. And then there's these Learning and Education Advancement Fund LEAF grants. And this is the hardest one, I have to admit, to wrap my head around. okay? And so far, we have not succeeded at the leaf game yet. But let's make this a time when we succeed big time, okay? All right, so those are the ones that are available at U of T. And there's one more site that I want to give for those of you who just want to get on the radar for other funding opportunities. There's something there's a provincial, it's called eCampus, okay? And they're trying to do all kinds of different things to have digital resources available for students across Ontario with the main purpose to improve accessibility of, might be people in remote areas who could take some courses online. So a wide range of things. They originally started out doing online courses, and then they moved on to online support for courses. And we had a successful project on calculus readiness modules, another one on stats readiness, physics readiness, and then they've moved into electronic textbooks. Right? So if someone had all your own content and you wanted to do a textbook, but then who knows if that's what they're going to be doing next time. And they actually had one round of research grants where they were actually funding research grants around online education. Mainly, I would say is what they were mainly at. Right? So if you're interested in this kind of thing, this is their website, and you can sign up for their newsletter at the bottom of the website. The thing about the provincial ones is the way it kind of looks, don't quote me back there with the camera, is that the province realizes it's got some leftover money and it quickly puts out these calls and wants they want results within 9 months. So not unusual to get a call in August, all right, with a September deadline, and they want it all completed by the following August, right? So maybe it isn't budgetary because that wouldn't be a fiscal year, but there's short timelines, right? So I would say if think about what projects you'd really like to have, kind of keep them in your pocket so that you can be ready when they have these calls, because they can just come out like that. Yeah.
Are there restrictions in terms of partnering? If I were to partner with a colleague at a different university?
They love that. In fact, in the point system for the provincial ones, okay, it's very difficult to get one without having colleagues somewhere else, right? You at least have to show that you really tried really hard to get a partner.
Does it matter? I know that U of T has partnerships with certain universities, but not all.
I would say it does not matter. You could even partner with a college. I don't mean like that, even partner with a college, but it doesn't have to be the 6 equivalent universities at the university. Not from the province's point of view, for sure. Whether or not, all these have to be vetted, like this would be vetted by the vice provost, and they might want to see certain agreements made with whoever our partner is relative to things. But the main thing I would say take home here is if you think you might be interested in doing something online, okay, and it could be big, they have big money sometimes, like the research proposals are up to $100,000. It might be worth getting on their, getting their newsletter, because then when University of Toronto gets those newsletters, they process them, they start thinking about the internal call, how they're going to run the internal competition, and then a week or two later they send out the call, and the call's already on a pre-tape timeline. So if you get the newsletter, you would get an early jump on things. Now, kind of similar, but not exactly, is the Higher Education Quality Council of Ontario, right? So the Higher Education Quality Council of Ontario is this what they call arm's length agency of the provincial government. I don't know how many of you have been around for when the Ray government, not the Ray government, the Ray report. He did a report on higher education, and he called for this semi-independent body to think about the quality of higher education in the province, and that's what HECO is. And they will often, maybe twice a year, put out RFPs where they've decided, for example, a couple years ago, learning outcomes very important. They put out a call where they were soliciting proposals to research proposals to look at learning outcomes, and they would define how. Now, after that, they did one on work integrated learning. So when they think there's a hot topic that the province should be pursuing, it's kind of like people powered. They put out a call, and people get the grants, right, for them. And I actually had applied for one, didn't get it, but I actually got a lot of good feedback. It was worthwhile doing because they have several professional people there, and they would review it, and they were going over. It was sort of our foundation skills for science. They were saying, boys and girls will game this kind of assignment. Boys and girls, young men and young women will respond to an assignment like this quite differently. You would need to factor that in. because they were saying he was at the time saying the guys would game an assignment like this a lot more than the women. So anyway, but again, if you're interested in that kind of thing, and they have like a blog, it's kind of interesting site. So you can get on, you go to this link, and in the very bottom corner, in kind of small print, it says sign up for the newsletter, and you can get on their list too. So this is all I'm going to say about these two, okay? Because there's nothing out there right at the moment. There's no tenders that are out there that I know of. Yeah. So now I'm going to circle back with more detail, since we do have people on the TGs, I think it's worth going through. So we have now originally CTL had $20,000 for all of its teaching grants, and then we were asked to administer the campus's equipment grants, which is about $50,000. So we have $70,000 in the pot, and then just recently the dean put in $20,000 more into the pot. So there's really almost $100,000 out there to provide. Now, in terms of equipment, that can go really fast, right? And at least 50 of it is for teaching equipment. That 25 you just gave, 2025, I'm not sure which, don't quote me, is kind of a swing. We can use it to put more into the teaching software. Well, actually, the teaching software grants, that's another $11,000 that comes from IITS. So they're in its own little separate pot, and that often doesn't get spent, right? So anyway, so we have the teaching enhancement grants. These are mostly to hire people to help with, maybe you need a new lab manual in a course, or there's some new equipment, but really need to have a whole standard operating procedures created for them, for the students to be able to use it. Maybe you want somebody to help create it, and then somebody else to actually see, to put a couple of or a master's degree student to see if they can follow the manual to actually do the work, and there's all kinds of examples there. And then there's teaching assessment. So if you've done something in your course and you'd like to see if it worked by doing basically a little research project on it, we also have teaching assessment grants. So to buy equipment, that's very straightforward. We would need, the usual things you would need, like a requisition and a quote. And actually, if it's more than about $5,000, we would need 2 quotes to make sure we get a good price. But they have the grants, and we basically want to know, well, actually, I'm going to go through more of it. So these are the categories. So are there any questions about the categories here? It seems pretty straightforward. People, equipment, software, or doing assessment of the innovation, right? So these are the ones that have the 2 deadlines. That those professional development grants are rolling any time, a year, as long as we still have money. And then there's the matching requests, right? So if any of you here are thinking about doing an ITIF grant that needs a match, you need to be telling me about it now, and I want to read the proposal, at least a good, strong draft, well in advance, talk to the dean about it. Yes?
For teaching enhancement, if I want to hire a student to make a video on new polarimeter, we've got that teaching enhancement.
Yes. Yes.
Still.
Yeah, and we'd
Even
have
if
to,
it's
you know,
just creating video on technique.
yeah. So I mean, that might be one way we worth conversation with Janice about, right? Because she might provide the videographer in kind, right? Like in other words, we might do the videography free, and you just ask a question. You have to hire someone to help you create the content,
Yeah,
to actually
the
maybe,
content.
if you want the student to be doing it, which has a certain cachet, with, for students seeing it, you could do it that way. Yeah, but that's where. The earlier you could get something to Janice to look at, if there's any trouble spots, we could work through that, right? Okay, so I think I have a little bit more about the process.
Claire?
Yes.
A question about the teaching software.
Mhm.
Is that just for software that students would be using? Is
It has to be for
software
teaching,
that-
right? I don't really know how rigorous, let's say if it was, like, what's your example? Or do you have
I
any?
don't know. I
Yeah.
can just imagine that there might be software that would help me to design the courses and
Yeah,
implement
so
the courses,
I think,
but-
I don't know that you would get this grant, but I think that's worth asking about. Because they might, like, Zoran usually, who's the head of IITS, is often asking, there are softwares I should be buying for the campus, right? Like he was trying to get enough momentum going to get Tableau, right? Which is pretty expensive, right? Which is like a powerful data presentation tool, right? So it's something that's worth getting on the table, right? Even if turns into an inquiry that says, well, no, that's not this teaching software, but you know what? Now that I know that's useful, we could get a site license for the campus for 6 users at a time,
Right.
something like that. So he does have certain funds to do it, so getting on the table is good, yeah.
Let's say this would be for like the third online piece. so, yeah, the online undergraduate course initiative.
Right.
And you were like, yeah, I have a series of videos that I want to upload for students to watch that are relevant to the course.
Right.
And they would be created, they're original videos as well.
Okay. So what's the grant for? To
So
do,
the
if you
grant
already
would
have
be for
them?
the creation of the
creating
videos
the
and
videos.
putting them online.
Yeah, so you need to host them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when something is being hosted,
And it's for course.
yeah, it's
Okay,
for
all right.
course. So it would actually be in the place of going out in the field and guest speakers and whatnot. So there would be these like key,
Mhm.
profiles. Would you apply for 2 grants then? Like one is the teaching enhancement piece, like creation
Right.
of the video, and then the other piece is getting it up online, right?
So I would say, I mean, coming from a science background where you do or die with writing grants, I'd write as many as I could possibly convince myself that it fit into the category, right? But I would suspect that this would not be eligible for an ITIF grant, if that's the one of them, right? Because it's talking about a technology, not a product of technology. I know it's a little bit of nuanced, right?
Right.
But I think that would be the product, like whatever your product would be these videos that would be pretty much specific to your course, right? I would say,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, it's not a technology that anybody else can apply. They might say, "Ooh, that's a good idea. I'll try that in my course," but then they're going to have to recapitulate the whole thing, right? So,
Yeah.
so I would say your highest. Let's put it this way: your highest probability of success, I would say. Oh, you didn't say ITF though, you did. Is, are you okay? So for the online initiative one, are you going to replace class time?
Yeah, well, it'd be like instead of bringing folks in.
But you would still have the class. So it would be eligible, I would think, for the online course initiative if you currently have. You would have you only have 66% of what you now have for the course, right? Or, and I mean, I guess you might be playing a game if you've never taught it yet. So we're saying, if I don't get this, I'm going to have three hours of meetings, and if I do get this, I'm only going to have 2. Then that would be eligible. Yeah, it would be eligible.
And
But
so-
I would also, I think I'd apply for teaching enhancement grant.
Right, so the teaching enhancement would be where you could actually create pieces. And then the last question is.
Well, you see, I don't know what they would give you the money for, but it probably, like for the online initiative, it could be for whatever you wanted to use it for, except yourself. You can't pay, almost with any of these, you can't pay yourself, okay? Right? And you can't buy yourself out of your own teaching, okay?
So,
Beyond
so
that,
with the online, do you have to use a U of T server?
I would guess that would be the desired outcome, but probably, I think also, this is a sort of sidebar, but maybe you ought to talk to the digital scholarship unit in the library, right? So it sounds a little bit like something that might be up their alley, and they'll do it for free.
Yep.
And be happy to do it. Right? I mean, especially if it's got the research flavor. Like say Lana's, not so much, right? It's like it's showing them how to use a piece of equipment in the lab, right? But if you're doing is like bringing them closer to an expert and kind of giving them more of a research experience, right?
Yeah.
A digital scholarship unit might be interested in that, right? So, I mean, a lot of it is they support research, flat out support, people's research scholarship with, big space to hold research, like somebody, videoed cave paintings in China. I mean, cave paintings?
Well,
Yeah,
you
cave paintings in
said
China type thing, but.
None of the
but-
funds
but-
can go to you.
Well, to support, like, you can't pay you, right?
Yourself, yeah.
You
So
can't,
if you went to
You're
China
applying.
to film those cave paintings, like as the person directing it?
yeah,
you
I don't
get
think they would
any
pay for
money?
that. I don't think so, yeah. But those are I'm not an absolute expert. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know TG, forget it. All right, I mean, it's usually not that scope. And I'm pretty sure I've been to enough of the sessions downtown that they would say no. Whether or not, sometimes when there's a will, there's a way, and somebody will come up with the money, right? But I think it's pretty much not in what people are saying can be done, right? That's where it's not a bad idea. All of these places have the program administrator. Like, I mean, I feel like between Janice and I, we can answer everything about the CTL administered ones, right? But the other ones, less so, right? But so I think it would be worth exploring with Lori
Right.
for the online course initiative, because unlike the rest of them, they don't say, won't pay for this, we'll pay for this, right? So you could talk to her about it, right?
Right.
And if you email me, I'll connect you with her.
But it sounds like you're saying research grants are what cover the fees for.
See, I mean, we're kind of in an interesting time now where the university is really trying to get bigger into experiential education, okay? and some of it can be virtual. I mean, like, in other words, you can't take all the students, with our analogy to caves in China, but if you can bring those to them and have them interacting as scholars would with that material, that could be an experiential learning opportunity out of it. And that's something even, occasionally the dean does. Like, I think, the dean has helped departments take a cohort of students to Japan. So if you ask me, is there anything in any of these grants that would allow you to do that? The answer is no, right? But the chair of that department must have said, this is a high priority for us, da, 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 and sometimes you get a yes out of it, right? So it's not abandoning, right? That kind of thing. And, the other thing would be, do you have access to a research grant? Or, depending on, I don't know if you're in teaching stream or research stream, but, if a person's in teaching stream, the dean's going to know they don't have access to, a pot of money like a person who got a shirt. A person in tenure stream, you might say, get a shirt grant for that, something like that. So I wouldn't want to completely shut the door, but it doesn't sound conventional, that part of it. Okay. Okay. I think that's these, and then I was going to go to the a little bit more about. So people are talking about how to get, and we took these are our criteria for judging the teaching grants. Okay, so I had an eligibility there, but somewhere on there. So basically, the eligibility is faculty. Pretty much have to be a faculty member. We'll occasionally consider someone who's a promoted sessional instructor if their project is endorsed by their chair and say, we would use this, we would continue to use what they're developed, even if we got a tenure track person to teach this course instead or something like that. But and we looked carefully, this is fairly new, and we looked carefully at what was for the LEAF grant, and so this is a little simpler, but it's along the same line, okay? So the clarity of the proposal and the extent to which the grant is linked to strong learning outcomes, right? So our guidelines have, these are not long proposals, right? Even 3 pages would probably be on the big end, like on the high end of how long they are, but clearly indicating I'm trying to get this piece of equipment so that the students will have more experience with, state-of-the-art technology. The outcomes would be that they would learn how to troubleshoot, so have some learning outcomes and indicate how what you're asking for relates to that, right? Feasibility and sustainability, we really don't want to do just one-offs. We're hoping we can do things that would be continued to be used in the course. So occasionally people have asked us for, I think it was in music, to get an expert musician to come into the class on 2 occasions to work with the students, okay? Now, that wouldn't really be something we would do because that means we have to be giving money every year to it. But we funded it, like when we get requests like that, we say, if your chair says that if this works and turns out to be a positive learning experience for the students, I'm committed to trying to find our own source of money to fund it. So we will do one-offs once, right? If chairs, indicate that it's something that they would be committed to find, and then, then we don't arrest them if they don't. But that's the idea, because we obviously can't continue those year in year out, or we would not have money to fund new things. But so we do, so we really are looking for sustainability. But if it looks exciting and it looks like it's worth trying, and there's a commitment to try to find money from it from another location, long run, that wouldn't be enough to just have it be rejected. We would take it. The appropriateness of the budget. This is often where people really fall down, right? They just make up a number. I guess they're maybe doing the grants the night before, and they just make up a number. And we actually, the last page on the summary of all the grants is actually, it's like a scan, so you can tell it's kind of gray. Susan McKayen, who's the vice provost and who administers the LEAF grant, handed this out at her LEAF presentation, and it's got some cost guidelines, okay? So it's not an absolute, there's a couple of these things where something might be allowed, but especially it gives some recommendations on costs for things, like how much to pay a research assistant, how much they're gonna allow for printing. So it's a good guideline for you. So try to make your budgets realistic, right? Then the extent to which the proposal aligns with your department or your campus-wide priorities, okay? And I'll tell you some of the campus-wide priorities in a minute. Your department, you hopefully would be tweaked in with your departments and what kinds of things they would think, yeah, this would be good for our department, right? And the actual application process is online, it's pretty easy, right? And there's a place, once you submit your grant proposal, the chair of your department is notified and asked to comment whether or not they would, do they endorse the proposal, yes.
So I'm trying to submit that proposal, and it's 4 of us.
Okay,
So I am filling up the application. I put all four of us, but other 3 cannot see it.
yeah, talk to Janice,
That's,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring
Yeah.
it because I did share it with them anyway, so I
Right,
copy and paste
right.
it into the Word
Ah,
document.
so you
and
can't even download it as a PDF. You're
So
saying-
like I
Yeah.
can see the
Yeah,
thing.
and by
here,
the way,
I
this
can-
is a major problem with the LEAF grants. It's totally online, not to deflect, but,
Yeah, it's okay
but-
to be
yeah.
totally online, but
Yeah.
what if
Right.
the other 3 people can have an
Yeah,
access to change
yeah.
change it?
I would contact Janice immediately. Maybe there's a way to do that. I don't know it, right? And Janice actually administers the program. Okay. We get a slight preference. I mean, like, all other things being equal, we would find, and we only had our last $1,000, we would probably give it to a person who was early in their career. That's because it means, when you're putting forward your teaching portfolio and dossier like that. But we actually fund projects across the range of ranks, right? And we just recently have said because we're actually now having to say no more often than we would like, that we would like people to wait basically 17 months, which is if you got it in the fall, then you have to wait the March, the fall, so they'll be back to the next spring to try to, but equipment, yes.
For the same application, would I be able to submit one equipment and one
Yes.
enhancement?
Yes, I think, yeah. But coming back to the well twice for this equipment grant, we're starting to try to spread it around. Biology and DPED sort of gobbling up. Well, equipment costs a lot of money, but anyway, yeah.
Claire,
Yes.
in a given funding cycle,
Mhm.
is it acceptable to submit 2 things under 2
Yes.
different categories?
Yes, but then that's going to tie up both of those categories for you, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I think this is a new thing because we're starting to have to turn people away, and it kind of would like to spread the wealth a bit, right? Where was I going to go with that? So that would we think carefully about it, right? Like, I think we would just go with the lead person as the person who can't do the next one, right? So, if someone asks you Kathy, would you be on this grant with me? You can say, yeah, but you have to be the lead. If it's something that's not, if it's kind of secondary to you, you know what I mean? You don't want to use up your, right? Okay. All right. So, I knew I had the eligibility somewhere, but we've already covered that one. And so this is sort of like we talked about the priority areas, right? So anything that, adapts or develops courseware, instructional technology, just because that helps us deal with our large numbers, right? Supports diversity, inclusivity, accessibility. Those are high priority for us. Promotes writing or oral communication. Disciplines, it's almost everything, really. Discipline-specific information literacy, quantitative reasoning skills, innovative teaching techniques, right? Things that might improve how fast we can give students feedback, things that help develop a sense of learning community, a sense of community among the students, things that are collaborative, seem to be, that's sort of across the board, and LEAF is the same way. In fact, I think with LEAF, I better not jump ahead of myself. Okay, and then we added this year, special priority to be given to integrated learning experiences. Okay, so this is, the provost just came out with a white paper on this. I don't know if you guys have read paper or the Provost Digest, things like this, but the province has said they want every student who graduates from university to have the opportunity to have a significant experiential learning opportunity. Okay, and then they've got a checklist that defines what that would include. But so the university, to try to be a little more encompassing, has put integrated learning experiences. Basically, it might be research, it might be work, it might be community engagement, okay, that have not just the experience, but the students have to do self-reflective, like they have to do a self-reflective writing on it, right? And it has to be kind of authentic, so that, it's like I do co-op, and the students, it's always surprising, the students come and give their co-op reports and they go, I made a mistake in the experiment, and they maybe do it over the same day. And I was late, it's like, duh, that's the real world. So it has to have that sort of level, as opposed to, I got a C in this, I'll move on, type of thing. So it has to have that kind of sense of responsibility that they would get in the real world. Because that's the province's goal, is kind of work or career readiness, you know. Yes?
You had said something about the Provost Digest, and said it had a checklist. I'm wondering where one might be able to see that.
Yeah,
I'd like
well,
to
so
know how to
okay, so the white paper, okay, is, well, if you ask me, I'll send it to you. I think because we tried to get I don't think the provost has posted it yet, but we have the information on how to get it on our granting site. But anybody who wants me to send it to him, I'm willing to send it to him. And I also have the PDF file from the provinces. The province is actually accessible. It's something like, the initials of it are MAESD. So if you Googled MAESD, so that must be Minister of Education and something else. Da, da, da. Right, so, but if you send anyone wants those, I can send them to you. Okay, those, because the checklist is the province's checklist is really nice and easy to follow.
That's what I was thinking.
Very to follow that. Okay, so. Right. So basically, this is our link to the teaching enhancement grants. I'm usually the one that people can just ask questions to, and it won't be like, I'm not going to move any information to Janice. So if people, you know, just can ask wide open questions to, I'll try to give you my advice on what's the best strategy to get the money. Then Janice, just independently, she receives the applications and has them adjudicated, right? So we kind of decided to separate it that way so that people can feel free to ask whatever questions they want about the teaching grants. So that sort of ends that part of it. So Sonia, did you have any questions about what you're trying to go for?
Yeah, I want to know, like, is there like a review process? I know it's on your 2 pages, but.
Yeah,
what
I'm happy
you said
to,
too.
see, I would say I'd be happy to look at it, right? I would be the reviewer, right? And then when you know, and then you could submit it to, it's the same thing if you.
Since that's the first time I write one, I have no
Yeah.
idea if I need all those. Criteria.
You don't have to meet all of them. In fact, you don't actually, well, let me go back. 'Cause I don't want to say you don't have to meet any of them. But you wouldn't necessarily have to have it in a priority area, right? Like, I mean, this is the first time we're actually going to use kind of a grid to actually judge the grants, right? Because we're now getting to be, it's more of a competition, right? So one of the criteria will be to the extent to which it matches a priority area, right? So if we follow like the LEAF grant one, when I'll go over the LEAF grant one, you'll see too, that they have a similar category, right? So a person might get a really, like I think 4 is a high score you can get on how it matches a priority, right? But if the budget bomb, well, if budget bombs, it's bombed, but you know, it's going to be a total score that's maybe out of 30, right? So a well-written grant that is still of value, right? If it looks like it's of value to the students, that's the acid test. Does this going to improve student learning in our courses, or a course, right? Then it's admissible, and it's just a question of where it goes, right? So it's going to be combined score, right? And so something would not have to be in any of these priority areas, although, you know, like between writing and quantitative reasoning, you ought to be able to slip it in somewhere, right? You know, I mean, just between those two would be almost everything that we do in some way, right? And you know, you think like even accessibility things, right? Things that make it so that an English language learner could have the time, you know, like I mean, there's just all kinds of ways that these things can enhance students. But I'm perfectly willing, like the people who have taken the time to ask me to review them, I'm happy to review them. People who haven't got them have come back to me later on and said, hey, you know, what do you think I could do to improve the chances of it? Because almost always the goal is really worthy, right? It's going to do something that's going to help our students learn better, right? So yeah, so happy to do that. Okay. And I know you had said, and I think Lana, anyone else I missed? Oh, were you a teaching enhancement grant too? Yeah. So do you have any questions about that one? Or no, you're there? Yeah. So okay, good. Well, you know, happy to help, right? All right. So then that wraps up that one. Okay. Now both the my eye's missing, but ITIF, okay, and LEAF grants, okay, they have exactly the same thematic structure, okay, so that bunks it together. So high impact teaching practices. So I mean, high impact teaching practices. Well, I'm trying to think of there's about a list of about 5 or 6 different things. But usually, when students have to write extensively and get them to get good feedback. That's one high-impact teaching practice, when students have to give presentations, if they're acting like a professional. There's sort of a list of them, but something that would really have an impact on students, like, a better multiple choice test, probably not, right? You know what I mean? It might be scalability or something like that, but, or might be able to fit back onto faster feedback to the students, but, high-impact teaching practices, the development of learning analytic systems, right? You guys have to tell me what exactly that means. It's where if you're thinking of some way to monitor students' learning through a process, they would be looking for something that would have broad applicability, I think, okay? And then the president's 3 priorities, president of the University of Toronto, which would be leveraging our urban location for the mutual benefit of university and city. Any kinds of community engagement pedagogy would be certainly in that category. Health related would, certainly, and sociology, definitely those kinds of things would be in there. Strengthening and deepening key international partnerships. Well-defined strategic focus. I think they've kind of rephrased that one, huh? I cut this from them, but this is the international, promoting internationalism. And then reimagining, so this one, pick your topic and reinvent and reimagine it, and it fits on that one, right? So that one's pretty broad. All right. And then they cut some other ones besides that. Proposals that integrate one or more of the following key thematic areas to be given preference. List is not exhaustive, it means go for it. You got something else. Diversity-related initiatives, that's going to be very important, especially if you happen to have a proposal on indigeneity, right? And nothing for us without us. Okay? So if you're planning on doing something with indigeneity, bring some of the indigenous community into it. Sustainability, experiential learning. In other words, and they're breaking this down into work integrated learning, community engaged learning, research opportunities, placements, unique project-based learning, things that would be experiential learning. And here's where it really, if you have a great idea, it's probably, if possible, talk to your chairs too. Oh, because we lost Ella, but looks like her stuff is still here though, huh?
I think she probably just went out to hit out the food or something.
Okay. Oh, sorry for my own distraction there. Okay. Right. Undergraduate research, urban and community engagement, applications of technology, multi or interdisciplinary enhancement of student assessment and feedback processes. So again, really broad, right? Almost everybody would be able to fit. That can help you strategize. You tell me what you're trying to do. I'll try to help you tell you what it fits into, right? But now these are for the the U of T wide grants. Okay. So both the LEAF and the ITF, these are their priorities. Okay. So I thought I would go through LEAF. I'm going back and forth on this, but the LEAF proposals, you have to be. Well, you could be a faculty or staff or a librarian with a continuing appointment. And this, I think, relates to everybody here. First entry, that means undergraduate programs, okay? The ITIF program could actually be graduate programs in case somebody from one of our graduate departments wants to do it. But LEAF is for undergraduate education, all right? So this is, most of this I've just literally copied from the sites because I didn't really trust myself to paraphrase it. But it's first and foremost curricular innovation. So in other words, it's not just a research grant. So they really want to have something created that's gonna enhance our teaching capacity, right? And this one is the trickiest one to do because I think I have one next page. I won't jump ahead of myself here.
Claire?
Yes.
When they say enhances the teaching capabilities of the university, do they mean the university or can it be the Department of Sociology?
The bigger that net, the higher it's going to score.
Okay.
Okay. And more likely, the more money they might give you, right? Something that is just really good quality in your course, but that is obviously looks like it could be transferred, even if you're not transferring it, but if you're willing to talk about it to other people and help them transfer it, that's probably got a shot. But probably the price tag, that nobody's told me this, I'm just seeing from what my sense is of going to their workshops a couple of times, is that, they're not going to throw as many dollars at you as they might if it's something that could be adopted in all arts and science, type thing. So they have 2 categories, these small ones. I know several people said they were interested in seed grants, right? These are accepted on a rolling basis. And I think there's really no distinction between these 2 except the amount of money they're giving away and, because they're giving away less money, how much they would expect out of you, okay, to do it. So this could almost be like pilot. So they will often say pilot grants. So you think you have an idea that would work, you get a small amount of money to kind of try it once, and then if it worked, maybe go for a bigger grant after that, right? Now these impact grants then go from $15,000 to $100,000, right? Let's see. Hello?
Sorry.
No problem. Right. So the seed ones are a rolling basis. Okay. The impact grants are only that once a year. Okay. Now both of them, I think, require the dean's approval. So you would want to, if you do one of these, well, the rolling ones, there's no deadline. You probably want to run it past your chair, get an endorsement there, and then submit it, give it to me, and I will talk, read it, say, Bill, I think this is, worthy of getting endorsed. But it has to be endorsed by the dean to move forward. Okay. I think. So the little ones, I think you could almost think of the little ones like a teaching enhancement grant. I mean, to do something, but it could be a combination of technology and resource. The impact grants are the ones that they say they want you to have. Let me see what the next slide is. Maybe this makes it easier to talk around this. Yeah. So they're going to want you to. So if you look, these are their criteria. All right. Connection to the scholarly literature. All right. So if I actually do kind of, I would like to do a LEAF grant, and I want to try to help students connect the idea of developing the skills in their courses to help them see immediately how this would help them get ready for a job. I actually think it's pretty close link, but I don't know the literature on that at all. I really have no idea, what would be the most effective way to make those connections. So if I was the big obstacle for me is I'm going to have to, do a dive into the literature, because they don't want you to just say you're going to do something and hope it works, right? For the big money, right? For those big money, they want you to have done some literature. I mean, maybe not enough to publish. Well, not maybe. You don't have to have so much literature out there that you would be able to publish a review article on it, but they want you to have some sense of what's out there so that you're making an intelligent guess at what you're going to be doing, okay? So that's going to be a component of it. Then they're going to want you to innovate in some way. The tricky part in the past here from our failures, I would say, is if we put in a technology grant, okay, that's over the, like say we put a LEAF technology grant in to create some technology that would be innovative in the class. They said, oh, that's an ITIF, okay? So they almost immediately send anything that's predominantly the development of a technology over to ITIF grants, even if there's not enough money in the ITIF grant pot to cover what needs to be done. So that's a bit of a warning there. So, it can have a technology component, but it can't be like or mostly that, right? So I'm just going to use my little pie in the sky one that I was hoping to do, I want to have videos made with 50 professionals from different areas where they would talk about what are the key attributes they're looking for in new hires, new employees. 2-minute videos, so I got to make a lot of videos. That's not the technology, right? That would be the production. But then I want to create some sort of portfolio system where they would be, self-reflecting, going back and forth. Take the project from your course and do a timeline for it when you have to do these milestones. What did you learn from that? How would that apply to pick a video? So I would probably need to have some sort of technology, unless people were going to go crazy, some sort of e-portfolio system that would be adapted for this task, that would house the online materials that they would have to do. So it would have a serious technology component, but that wouldn't be the main thrust of it. The main thrust of it was getting students to apply these things in their courses, right? So I just made this one up. It is actually kind of my wish list one that I wish I had time to do, but yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if there are any successful grants that examples that we could have a look at. Not we like
Yeah.
anybody could
Yeah.
have a look.
Yes.
To have an idea of what works.
Yes. So the LEAF actually, so the website.
User seems to have particularly.
Yeah. So let me just sort of. So this link, if you go to this link, on the right side they will have successful applications from 2016.
they put just a title or there's actually?
Okay, I've seen that.
Yes.
What they provide would be, this is the title, and this is basically, I don't know, maybe 150, 200 words, what this project is.
Oh, like an
about.
executive summary.
Yes, but I don't think it shows us
Summary.
examples
The
of those
proposals.
grants. I was trying to look for that.
Okay. Yeah.
For the seed leaf grant.
Yeah. Don't let me forget that, I'll come back to it.
So that's ongoing basis. If we'll
Rolling
apply,
basis,
like,
yes.
if we will apply by November 10th, is it any chance we'll get it by next term? Because that's what we're trying
Next
to
when?
do. By the January, like,
Get the money?
yeah.
I think they'll announce the winners in January, right?
For the
They-
rolling grants?
Oh, actually, I don't
The
know the
rolling.
timelines for the rolling grants, right? But they shouldn't be longer, right? But for the November 10th one, they made a commitment to announce those in January, okay?
Because
And I think the money will
we-
probably flow immediately.
Because
right?
we thought the impact, it's no point to apply until you'll try it, right? Like for the smaller. We don't know.
A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but some people have definitely gotten impact grants without ever having gotten seed grants.
Oh, okay.
That's definitely not required.
We'll
right?
try to the impact and see. how
Yeah,
it goes,
yeah, so
right? Yeah.
to get back to that, I will, if somebody will promise to send me an email, I will look at the list of winners, okay, and try to find someone I know and ask them to send me their
Yeah, that's
proposal.
what I was
Right.
wondering,
Yeah.
if there are, within a year.
Yeah.
If there are successful
Yeah.
people, this field ask.
Yeah,
Are you
and-
willing to?
yeah,
to-
and in terms of,
So we have done that for answer.
Yeah, but like for teaching enhancement grants, like Dan had one, right? I mean, Soya's one, Elaine's had one. I'm sure they'd be willing to share. But for the LEAF, I have to say, I've gone to the workshop twice, the 3-hour workshop twice, and we've submitted about 20 proposals. And they have been across the board. Oh, one more thing.
Really downtown.
And we just have not busted in yet on that one, right? Some of them which had definitely, like, so had a really modest, I thought they'd give us SOHIs if nothing else, because it was very modest, like maybe, it was before they had the seed grants. It had laid out the pedagogical background for this, tight budget, but it was all technology, right? But anyway, they talked about how it was going to be used in the course, how this technology was going to be used in the course to achieve course learning outcomes. Really tight little proposal, and it didn't get funded. And I think the comment was just, this is all technology, should go to ITIF type thing,
I
right?
know
Yeah.
in that list, you could also reach out to those successful people.
Yeah.
See if one of them would be open.
Yeah. A lot of the winners have
Because we're
been
not
managed.
actually in competition with each other.
No, we're
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like coming from so many different.
We
Yeah.
talked to the CTL downtown, and they said the more people, from at least the same discipline, better it will, if it will be from different disciplines
Yeah,
will be involved, then the more.
Oh, you're talking about
successful.
collaborating, yes?
Leave,
Yes.
Oh, no, I
proposal.
just meant, like, if you want to see a written application, if I'm in the arts, so if I go
Right.
to I don't want to go to sciences because it's so different.
Right.
But, like someone who's just outside.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised, medicine does a lot of, because medicine's one already, and they do a fair amount of, because that's one of their weaknesses, is
but
the
the way
medical
they
profession, so they're
format-
strong, but a lot of it is soft-sided.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I find that, like, when I think of my friend in biology and the way she formats her grants, I mean, I don't even want to touch that because it's
Yeah.
not.
Well,
it's just
the
not
vice provost is
same.
an engineer. Yeah, but the vice provost is an engineer,
Right,
right?
okay.
And the other two people, are I think the main adjudicators are Carol Rollheiser, who comes out of a education background, right? Avi Hyman, who's like tech out the wazoo, right? And then Susan McCain, who's an engineer by training, right? So you might want to get in touch
Right,
with
get a
your
sense of-
science
yeah.
side, right? But if you email me, I will try to shake loose one or two, right?
Do we get
Successful ones.
feedback?
They,
They're not successful?
they
Yes,
do give
feedback.
feedback, but it's pretty, at least the first time around, did you do last year?
No, we did
Yeah,
not apply.
because we did, the year before, we got feedback, but it was like, this would be better submitted as ITIF grant. And there was one, the other component, which is, I don't really see, I think it's somewhere buried in there, is that it has to be course linked, right? So I would say the ideal proposal, all right, it can be linked onto a course, like, in other words, it has to be related to a course. The more courses, the better, the more transferable it is. You don't have to transfer it, but but to have at least two different people saying, I'm willing to try this in my course, to use this once we've developed it that's what I would have to do in mine. My pie in the sky one would be find a couple of courses who would be willing to at least announce it, so that the students could use the course assignments to kind of fulfill this certificate that they're got type of career readiness. So it has to be linked to courses. The more transferable it is, the better, right? It can have technology, and I think, especially they're looking for scalability, which is, so often going to mean you're going to have technology to do it, right? So anyway, so this is the alignment, with their themes for the year, connection to the scholarly literature, so you have to do some literature review. Collaboration, so they absolutely has to be one person, right? And if it's more than one person in another discipline, so much the better, right? Assessment and evaluation, how are you gonna assess? You have to indicate how you're gonna look, at least in a preliminary way, on whether or not it worked, right? They want to see some
They
sign.
told us to submit a survey. They even told us, like, if you
Oh, you guys-
say, yeah, the survey questions. That's what we're preparing as well for the ELIM.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to have the survey created when you put in the grant application, but you would say we plan on surveying.
And you have to have the ethic approval, at least you have to apply for it before you're applying for the LEAF grant.
Ethics approval? No, you don't have to have that ahead of time.
He told us.
No.
You can
No.
check, there's a tech line, have you approved the ethics approval? Yes, we do. But you don't have to have it.
I mean, I went to the workshop this past summer, and I absolutely know positively you don't have to have the ethics approval done
that's good
when
to
you
know.
apply to the LEAF grant. But you better indicate that you're gonna do it.
Oh,
right,
okay.
for the grant. Because, I mean, that's a lot of work for something you may not even know you're gonna get, right?
Exactly.
But I'm sure that you don't have to have it done. If you have it done, tell them. If you haven't had it done, and it looks like you need ethics approval, then tell them you're gonna
If
get it.
it's anonymous survey, then you don't need the.
Well, there's
Still-
there's expedited ethics approval, like if there's virtually no danger to harm, it's, fill out about 10 pages where you just
Okay.
put in boxes, and then you get it gets faster turnaround. It's not a lot less, well, there's less paperwork, but it still seems like a lot of paperwork, right? Okay, transferability, so if they can see how this could really transform undergraduate education in science at U of T, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that broad. Okay, here's another interesting one. The degree to which the project leverages existing resources. Right? So, and I think what they really are trying to say is, don't ask us for money to do something that you could turn around and ask a colleague for, right? If, let's just say you were going to ask for a LEAF grant to have academic advising come into your classroom to help students. Well, they think that you should already probably be able to ask academic advising to come into your class. Well, I just made up an example of that. Budget, the appropriateness and justification of the budget. I think she will follow what I've put at the back. She didn't exactly say it because this is the Educational Development Fund budget justification for medicine, but she said this is what medicine uses. We like it. Here it is. So I think
Because
we'll see
like
that.
we're thinking, because it's 4 different courses applying for the same LEAF grant, and we don't know how to put it in a budget, so we think that we will hire students who will
That would
be
be
set
good.
of questions, and those set of questions will be used as a peer instructor, like type of learning.
Okay, let me say one thing. We're in the process of negotiating with CUPE Unit 1 and 3. You better not be proposing something that looks like standard TA work.
Well, it's not TA, this is the set of questions we're going to
Set
ask.
of, what is this?
Questions for the lecture, like you lecturing,
Yeah.
and then it's a clicker question.
Oh, questions,
The TA
got it.
doesn't do it.
Yeah. So just create questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's easy. If you said
Questions.
students, thinking about what questions students typically don't get, student perspective questions. Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah. I mean,
So we be thinking, should we, like in a budget, should we put the all hours for all 4 courses, or say they need 50 hours or whatever hours per course?
yeah, so you see, okay, I still think you should do it, but I'm not sure they're gonna see any transferability here, right? Because every time a course has to make, so if you made a guide, if a component of it was a guide to how to make good clicker questions, okay, that anyone could use, right, type thing, then they would see transferability. But if it's just money for the 4 courses to make course-specific questions,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's gonna fly. I'm just giving you some immediate feedback on what the challenges are. But if you were trying to Dan Riggs made this quizzical thing where you make questions and it's got, I don't know. If you could link it to existing resources, something like Quizzical, and then make a guide for how to make questions, I think it would help it fly. But I'm not saying don't apply, I'm just saying if I'm trying to put on my Susan McCain hat, I'm saying, where's your transferability here, right? Because every time somebody wants these questions for their class, they've got to hire somebody to write the questions. So something that would make it easier for them to write the questions the next time.
It's easier to
right?
put in a proposal than if I will create a pool of questions and make it available somehow.
Yeah, a resource with
Resource for
that you would
the
make
courses.
available to all of you of
To all
TA
of-
chemistry. Yeah.
yeah.
So you see, put something like that in.
Okay.
Okay, now it's looking a little more transferable.
Okay.
Right?
Can
Elaine?
can I just say to you that I wanted to have an undergrad in my intro, so hired to write questions, and labor relations said no. That it's considered a conflict with what the TAs do, and said you can't do it, so.
Yeah. So it's well, yeah. So especially see with the table color.
But
I
they
don't
can
wanna say what I wanna say.
I think it's how you phrase it, because
Yeah.
we can say it to everything. Like if you hire student to make a lab manual, we also can say TA can do it, right?
Well, I would say it depends on, I mean, our experience with this is, it depends on how much it's in a hardcore TA activity. Because, I mean, TAs have probably done everything at the university at one point in time, right? But is it a mainstream TA type of activity, right? And labor relations will always be cautious, right? So, you know, if you said test questions, right? Even though I think, I mean, TAs would be the only, I mean, you would not devolve that to undergraduates for anything. Practice questions, right? I think you could, I mean, I think there would be a way to get that to be okay. If it's like practice questions, and I mean, like the whole Quizzical application is students make questions, right? And they rank each other's questions, and it's, you know, peer feedback, you know, so.
Oh, yeah, no, I get it.
But it's very.
I just wanted to save you time, because we spent
Yeah.
like 3 hours with
Yeah.
labor relations over the past year.
Wow.
Going back and forth with drafts to get this undergraduate assistant for my class, and we ended up having to hire him through USW.
Right.
And had to have a detailed list of what he was not allowed to do, and making up questions was one of the things that he was not allowed to do. So,
Yeah,
so
so it's a very nuanced.
I'm not trying to rain on your parade, I'm just
Yeah,
letting you know
it's
from
very
experience.
nuanced. It's very nuanced, and that's why, like, I immediately, the way you said it first, I go, you know, type thing. Elaine, did you want to say something now?
Okay, I'm just wondering, so if getting an undergrad to create questions would be trespassing onto a certain area, then in our grant, can we say, we're not getting undergrad, we're getting a TA person to make questions, straightforward?
Yeah, but I think it really depends on what are those questions about, right? If they are, you know, practice questions and students can respond in what, you know, I mean, I think there's ways that it could be an undergraduate that's like a peer, that's not, but you see, here's the other thing, you're hiring, right? Oh, but you'll be hiring too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a little different when they're
It's different when they're
volunteers,
volunteers,
and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
you know, citizen-led
Right,
kind of a
right.
thing. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I could see how that would be trickier, but I mean, that wouldn't be the end of the world, you hire a graduate student.
If we can hire graduate student, we
Right.
actually don't care
Right.
who will do
right,
it
right,
eventually.
right. And it's definitely something that could be a TEG, right? Because
Yeah.
that's something that, all we're looking for, is this going to be forever a nice resource? Not forever, but, you know, for a while, going to be a nice resource for your course?
Yeah.
Then, you know, it's fair game.
So we can say in application, the graduate or undergraduate students will be hired.
Yeah, you'll have to decide. But I would say, given where we are in the negotiating cycle, the university is probably going to be very sensitive to language. And
So if we will say graduate student will be hired to do so, fine, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so we'll,
As I said, I don't care, like who will do it.
right. Okay, so,
For the
yeah.
LEAF grants, what's the time period that they want to see completion?
I think it's 2 years.
For both or for the big one?
Either.
Okay.
That $100,000 is total, right? Right?
Yeah.
But it could be, I think, let me just try to look and see if I copied that part. I know it's in the handout that I gave.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, okay. So we'll come to it.
But yeah, what does it say about research ethics? Other applications must include the types of formal letter or email notification from the research ethics stating that the ethics has been approved, process is exempt, or that it's pending. Yeah, so when you submit it at the same time, the ethics approval, right? I mean, they want to see that you're really in the process of doing that. Okay. So Sonia, have I answered all your questions? And then you follow up with it, I'm happy.
Yeah,
to-
I will send those.
So it's at least 2 years, Kathy. And it might be, I think it said 2 to 3, but the memory is not as good as it used to be. but the money's total. And, I'm glad you brought it up, they're not delivering all the money at once. Right? At least not the bigger amounts of the money, right? They will probably set up some milestones and say, after you've done this, we'll deliver the next installment. Yes?
Who is the money made up to?
Usually we go to a department.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they would never give us the money. I mean,
Well, you couldn't, because then you would get taxed for that, and.
Yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and even the TGs, we no longer give, we used to put the money into the pairs, but somehow it wasn't always getting spent on what it was supposed to. So now we're like, person gets equipment, they'll give us the requisition, and we will give them the cost numbers. And for hiring, the departments would hire the person, and but we'd send the money, probably fill in the budget numbers on the monthly setup sheet there, right? So you typically will go to a department. Right? There might be a few exceptions to that, but I think that's for the most part how it would work. It's a little bit of pain, actually, right? Because departments don't have a lot of extra money to front, the grants and wait for the new person to give it back. Okay, so let's see. We're almost there. Is anybody here for the awards? Because we poached into the awards time. But let's see. So we're pretty close to wrapping it up. Again, we would like you to get the grant, basically get at least to me, maybe not the absolute final version, but a pretty darn close to final version for November 1st. So we don't know how many we'll have, but have to read them all, make sure the budget seems sound before we can move up with a meaningful endorsement. All right. Then the ITIF grants. So we're almost there. These are really about technology, right? So the only difference between the LEAF and the ITIF in terms of eligibility is graduate units can also apply for the ITIFs. But the TEGs will take a sessional instructor 2 or 3, but these won't. Have to be in a faculty type or a permanent staff type of position. So they have 3 tiers, right? Basically they have seed funding, $2,000 no match required. If you just need $2,000 to get something done, they have that as an option. They have the bigger grants, but they're not really big, right? I think they even came down on the price of these, where they'll give up to $5,000, okay? But they want a match of $5,000 coming from someone else. So we'll consider being the match if we can see the full proposal, okay? And then if it's funded, we'll deliver the match. If it's not funded, sorry, you don't get the money there. I don't really like this, but every time when Avi presents on this, he says, and we're very suspicious of a proposal that comes in at $10,000. Okay, so I would say, personally, come in at 12 and talk about how you're gonna get the department to pay a bit extra or something like that, because they don't want it to just, and it is kind of true. You figure out how much this costs, and you figure out how much this costs, and there's $150 left, and you go, oh, what the heck, I'll just put that in for something else. Right? But I think the real take-home message there is, make your budget look very realistic. And if it comes in at exactly 10,000, so be it, right? But they're gonna look at that really closely, and so really better have it itemized quite convincingly about that, right? And then this last one, which I'm really excited about, is they have, it's called a support stream, okay? So you don't get any money, right? But you can get up to 150 hours of a professional, an instructional designer or an educational technologist to actually do the work. If you had a technology project, that's sort of what I was sort of saying, and I thought might be one good way to go on that. So it's like, so there's small amount of money, bigger amount of money, which it ends up being 10,000 because somebody's got to match it, right? And sometimes if you came to me and said, oh, could you match it? I might say, well, I'd like to have some earnest money from your chair, right? So if your chair comes up with 1,000, then okay, we'll try to match it, that kind of thing. So to show that it actually is of value to the department. But the support stream doesn't require any match, and it's actually the equivalent. If you actually got 150 hours with somebody's help, it would be about $20,000 worth. Yes.
On this, the photocopied information at the end, does it include actually any help in terms of costing this?
So glad you brought that up. No. And by the way, there's one component in there where it talks about matches can't be in base budget. That's really only specific to medicine. Medicine's saying you can't use as your match something in your base budget. You got to get it. But that wouldn't be relevant here because, I mean, if we matched it, it would be in our base budget that we would be matching it. So that would be the one part of it you don't have to worry about. But, so Aiden Irani in CTL can help you develop the LEAP proposals or the ITIF proposals when it comes to your technology component of it, right? So you want to get X number of videos made, not sure how much you should allow for that. He might actually refer that over to Mark McKee, who's in our unit, who would be able to price out that part of it. And Aiden would say, based on what you've said about the technology, I think that would take me about 30 hours, maybe you make that 40, done fast, I don't know, like that. So we have help for those kinds of, for the technology parts of it. If you're really trying to just want to look at the sort of, more like an instructional designer would look at it, to sort of kind of push you a little bit on, well, how's that relates to your learning outcomes, and how can we articulate, the learning components of it. So we have, now CTL has a person, David Chan. Oops, David Chan. So he's our educational developer. So he can help you in terms of not technologies, but just the soft side of your grants in terms of trying, especially for the ITF and the LEAFs, right? I don't know if we can stretch that far on the TEGs, but I'm willing to look. TEGs are pretty short. I'm willing to sort of look through those. But for these higher stakes types of grants, he could help a person, brainstorm around that from the soft side of it. And then Aiden Arani could help with the,
Claire, when they say
Yeah.
that we would get access to this design specialist, does that mean they have them and they give them to us, or we go find them, or?
No, they have 3 people. There's like 3 I think, well, maybe one's a woman. I think the woman's the instructional designer, but they have 3 people who are, 2 of which are educational technologists, and one who is a trained instructional designer, which is the person who's supposed to help you achieve your, to look at, say, these activities, I don't see how that might help you achieve these learning outcomes, or how are you going to test on that learning outcome, so it's all that. So they have 1 instructional designer and 2 people with educational technology experience, right, who have actually made, like, this Ontario Online, the eCampus, like our CTSI, like downtown, has actually gotten some grants to make some online materials, one of which is how to make online materials, okay? And their educational technologists have designed it. And that was actually in response to the fact that sometimes people have gotten ITIF grants, gotten the money to hire someone, and I don't know who to hire, right? I don't know who to hire for this, right? So they responded to this by saying, they have 2 educational technologists on the payroll to help people to implement their projects, right? So we tried that. We did that experiment with CTL, but it ends up we don't have enough capacity to sort of do that regularly. But where we're putting our capacity is helping make winning proposals, right? And then Aiden is I've asked him to develop a list, some people who we could refer people to if they don't get the downtown person, but they got money to do it, some pre-approved consultants who might be able to help. Right? Yeah, but no, this would be working with this particular, the support stream would be working with continuing stream staff members who are appointed in CTSI or vice provost office, I'm not sure which, yeah.
So will the person here, will this support stream cover the actual programming?
That's what we're hoping, right? Dan actually has a question, because I told him the same thing I told you, right? And he put in a question to downtown, and he's like, it has gone into the void. He's like, he has not gotten an answer yet back on that, right? Because it's computer programming, right? But to me, our educational technologists could do the programming, right? So I'm certainly hoping it's actually do the program, because we can help cost out doing the programming. So I'm working on the assumption that it is yes, right? Especially when they describe the things that they could do. It sounded to me like the answer is yes, right? Not just storyboarding and things like that. Most people can pick that up pretty fast, right? So I think the answer is yes, but I think there's only one way to find out, right? Now, the other thing that they've said, it's like if you get your proposal in early, okay, like they may decide they've deliberately aligned the ITIF and the LEAF dates so that they can move. Like if they decide something is really an ITIF and it's submitted to LEAF, they won't just reject it, right? Because in the year when they were rejecting those because they thought they were more ITF, it was too late to apply for the ITF because the ITIF was already gone. But they will move it, they've aligned those 2 deadlines and they'll move it over, and vice versa, right? So, yeah. And they sounded like if you talk to them early enough and manage to get their attention early enough, if you presented them, this is what I'm trying to do, I need this stream person, but I also need these other things, so I'd really like to have a LEAF that has some support stream. They made it sound like that was negotiable, right? at least at the workshop, okay? All right, I think that, let's see.
Do you have a handout for
Yeah, that's
awards as well?
I don't have a handout for the awards because it's so elaborate. But I think I would actually like to wrap, at least, what, it's like, is there people here for the awards? I mean, I don't want to put somebody in the spot and say, gee, I hate to say that I'm actually here for an award, but there's so many people here for the grants. But it is time to move on to the awards, right? I think. So, I have this 25-page document on awards, but I just thought, I'm not going to make a bunch of handouts on that. So I didn't know how many people were going to which of the two sessions, right? So if you're staying for the awards, we can talk about that. So, I tried to make the handout on the grants, everything that was on all of their websites. Okay, but I can't absolutely swear I made it succeed. Like, there's application forms that I didn't. Yeah.
One last question.
Yes.
With the ITIP, would you say that the criteria for judging application of the LEAF would also be the same type for the?
They did not
the
say.
ITIP? Okay.
Right?
Yeah, there's no, I
Right.
see no kind of
Right.
stuff
And
there, so I wondered.
like Susan McCain, who's really responsible for the adjudication of the LEAF, is very meticulous and very thorough, and whereas the ITF is always evolving a little bit more, right? So it wasn't as, I couldn't find that.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Okay. All right. So I'll just refill my glass and then we'll not rewind, but move on. Thank you. Hey. Perfect. Yeah, send me emails. Yeah, just send me emails. All right. Thanks for coming.
The timeline is so short.
Yeah.
No choice, you just have to work on it.
The way the university now works to try to get, UTSC works to try to get buildings, okay, is that it constantly has plans in the works for its next buildings, okay? And then that way when the province announces or the federal government announces it's got $50 million to build strong or whatever, it takes whatever project it has that will be eligible for that program and puts it on the table, right? And because a lot of these ones, it's like they announce it, you have a month to put the proposal together, and you have to spend the money on a building in 18 months, right? So I think, like say with your project, that's what I would say, have a think of all the itemized parts, or for anybody else who has dreams for what they would really like me, I'm giving myself that advice, right? Think about all the components of it, right? Have a really strong map, right? And then every time there's a funding opportunity, put at least part of that project, depending on which part fits, put it out there, right? Where you already have your thing fleshed out. It's just a question now of tweaking it to fit the grant application that's out there, right? Because that just seems to be the name of the, I've been here now, 27 years, and the timelines just keep compressing. It would have been absolutely unheard of to even announce anything in August that you expected faculty to know about, right? Period. End of the story, right? And then now they're announcing August and the deadline's in August, or, I get people saying, I emailed you last night at midnight and you still haven't answered me at 11 a.m., It's like the timelines are just so compressed that you just have to really believe that you have a worthy project, think it through, and then pounce when the opportunity comes. Okay, so I'm gonna get to my next one. Let's see. All right. Okay. So again, to let people let me know what kinds of awards are they thinking about, or just here for the overview, so I can, just so I'll know what's out there, so I'll pause at appropriate levels. Yeah.
I am not thinking about any awards myself,
Okay.
but I am the associate chair undergraduate
So
studies
you're
at
kind of one.
UPS, and George this year decided that the
chair.
nominee for the chair, nominee for the award will go for the teaching and curriculum committee, which I'm obviously head of.
Okay.
So I just want to hear the.
So you're
criteria
like,
for
what's
the-
out there? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And then Ella?
Yeah, over.
Oh, what's out there? Okay. No, actually, it's bothering me that I can't remember your name.
I can tell you.
No, Amanda.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I got Kathy, so, all right, so Amanda.
Actually, I would add,
Yeah.
I say overview, but as someone who hasn't been at U of T forever,
Mhm.
I'm also wondering if there's different tiers.
Yes, and I'm actually going to sort of go through them that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of my question as well. So I go for tenure next year.
okay.
So I've been here 5 years. So I'm kind of at the point of seeing, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
okay,
all.
yeah, so that's fine, yeah. And then Kathy, trying to remember what I remember. Okay, go. Yeah, yeah.
Unpredictable.
Right.
Yeah, so I applied last
You
year
remember
for
now.
the,
Oh, okay, so
the
you did before.
Scarborough Teaching Award.
Okay,
and I
the
didn't
young,
get it.
like the kind of the early
The
career
early
one,
yeah.
yeah.
And I have one more opportunity.
Okay,
to apply,
all right.
But I
So-
also want to know what else is out there.
Yeah, so everybody's kind of interested in, you know, where they're at level, and then what else is there. And then Sohi, same sort of kind of
Yeah,
thing?
same as.
Okay, all right, okay. And Elaine, some particular award, or
Yes.
just in general, what's out there? Okay, so I think so the way I structured it is I was gonna go from UTSC awards to U of T awards to post-U of T awards, and then my overall tips. This one I actually do have some tips on doing an award, whereas the grants, I thought, I don't know what the tips are. I mean, I looked at all these different grants and go, ooh. I mean, grants awards would be tips is write very clearly, plainly, clearly, have a good budget. Link it to learn.
I forgot to ask, like, how long should our proposals be for?
Yeah, so look at the guidelines, and they vary, you know, the TEGs can be, the UTSC teaching grants can be quite short, right? If they hit the punchlines, right? You figure for a LEAF grant, you know, they probably have a word limit, a page limit, right? But you're gonna have to spend some time introducing the topic and, you know, and showing the literature, the relevant literature, right? Then you're gonna have to describe what you want the money for, and then you're gonna have to describe how you're gonna look and see. So that one's gotta be 10 pages, don't you think? I mean, if I just walk through these components, that's looking to me like 10 pages, right? ITIFs, I've seen a lot of them that can be short. And that's a kind of, the other warning is don't do the LEAF at the last minute, because it's all online and some people have had trouble with the thing. Okay, so I started at the very bottom, so to speak, is like we do, UTSC has TA and an SIA award, okay? This is the link for it. The deadline is usually late April or early May. We have a sessional instructor award, okay? So that could be either a graduate student who's an instructor or a Unit 3 person who's an instructor, so we have an award for them. Again, the deadline is this would only be more like if you wanted to say Lana nominated college, because everyone here seems to be.
So Claire,
you know.
the question, we have people who are on 3 years contract, like 75% contract.
CLTAs.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, that would
Which
be-
award this one? Okay.
Yeah, so then, so this is basic, you know, these first
Just
two are
sessional.
CUPE awards, essentially,
Yeah.
for CUPE employees that are helping in our teaching enterprise. Then, next one is for either a lecture, so just so everybody will understand the terminology, if you're part-time, you're a lecturer, right? And if you're full-time, it would typically be in a professor stream type thing, right? But so for an assistant professor, okay, or someone who's in the lecture stream, and the wording is such that there's a certain number of years full-time equivalent. But so a person who had been 6 years as a 50% lecturer, that would only count as 3 years, like an early career award, right? And we have had one person, we've had maybe 2 people win, we have done 2 cycles, I think we have, where the person, you know, applied for the award in May and officially became an associate professor in July. That's fine. Okay? In other words, at the time of the application, they need to still be an assistant professor. And we've actually had one winner who was, the wording may be something, we tried as much as possible to align our awards with the downtown award so that people could win ours one year, turn around and win the downtown award, say, the next year, type thing, right? But the wording may be something like 6 years, at least the downtown one says something like 6 years, okay? But actually, if a person's had a sick leave or a mat leave, those don't count, right? So we actually had a person who was really, was still an assistant professor, just barely, okay? Who had actually already done 6 years at the university, but one of those was, had 6 years of service, but one of those was a mat leave, so it didn't count in terms of this award, and got the award. So we're following this. So, you know, a 50% time lecturer, when you're thinking about if they're still eligible, you can discount
But
the years. based on-
75%, but it's 10 years, so it's still lecturer because that
That
person
that
still.
would be 7.5 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably over the limit. right? But email me about it, and I can always ask.
No, if all thinkable,
Right.
like if
Yeah,
we
right,
make a
but
meeting,
75%
we'll
at 6 years, 75% at 7 years is probably fine. And if it, rounded off, so just that it was close, but, yeah, so that would work. So that would be the assistant associate professor, and then the last one would be for associate or full professor. Okay, so we always have our deadline in early May. That's those awards. And then there's the U of T awards, okay? So there's an early career teaching award, which is very similar, except they don't include lecturers, okay? So their award is for assistant professors. So if the person's an assistant professor, at the time the nomination is put forward, they're eligible, right? So we tried very hard to make our application look a lot like their application, so that we could turn them over and get
You
a
said
second
this is
award.
not for lecturers.
Say again?
This is not for lecturers.
Not for lectures. Because this is the U of T one, yeah, they have not included the lectures. Although if there was somebody that really should get it, we could try to push the envelope, but the way I read it, there's no provision for that. It doesn't say that, it just says assistant professors award. Right? We actually, by the way, have more awards than anybody else. I mean, as a division, we have more, I shouldn't say more, but we have a category of award for everybody. Anyone who's in the teaching enterprise, we have a category for an award for them, except librarians. Right, and then there's the President's Teaching Award, all right? So this would be kind of more like for our associate professor or full professor award. And I know they would have wanted someone to win a local award. They would probably want to see that. It would not necessarily, absolutely have to be the UTSC Teaching Award, okay? But at least some kind of one, like, Steve had, like an SCSU, like a student government award, had a teaching award on that, I think. So they would want something besides that. Now, I'm trying to just give the overview, and I can circle back to these a little bit. I think I will circle back to them again, but first I'll give you the overview so you can see what's out there. And then this is a new one, okay? These are teaching fellowships. These are exclusively for teaching stream faculty, okay? Who can do like a research project, basically. So it's got the details here, right? So you can kind of see, provides funds for up to 5 recipients in the teaching stream, which will then allow them to engage in a pedagogical project of direct benefit to students in a defined area of institutional priority. Through its focus on supporting pedagogical innovation and research, the program is intended to promote emergence of leaders within the teaching stream. The fellowships will provide the opportunity to undertake a 2-year project. In the beginning of it, I looked at the application. In the beginning, you work with the CTSI people. They're very CTSI specific, but what the heck, it's their money, I guess, to develop the proposal, right? And then over the next probably 18 months to do the proposal. And it's not listed here, I didn't copy all the details, but I think it comes with up to like maybe over 100 hours of a research assistance time, okay? And $5,000 for the person to spend on their professional development. Right? And I think it's up to 2 teaching release, two course teaching release. So in other words, that must mean they'd be willing to pay the department that the person's coming from to be released from their teaching duties, right? Charlie Banks, you would know Charlie, he got one of those, right? I don't know, there's another person, I don't know the person who got one. Yeah, it's only been around 2 years, and it's not heavily promoted, right? That's why I thought, even with these events, these mainly the Q&A, but it gets the word out, right? Sort of gets the word out on it. And like Charlie did his when he was on research leave, but I don't think you would have to. And, it could be done, and in fact, there'd be some advantages to not doing it, at least in terms of teaching release. I don't know if they, but, so it actually seems kind of cool.
Does it also include money for doing the actual research?
Let me see, I think I made one copy.
Because it's the same,
Yeah,
same,
but it just didn't say so.
same award exists for the graduate students. The couple of our department graduate students got it from downtown. So this is, for the graduate students, it's equivalent of 50 TA hours. So we're getting $2,000. So we're getting $2,000 and 50 hours relief. But I never knew about the teaching.
Right, let's see.
And I can look it up.
Okay, actually I think it has, let's see. It's open to all faculty members in the teaching stream. provides fellows with access to a cohort and network aimed at supporting and enhancing the work being undertaken, fosters the culture of teaching, and promoting effective teaching. Each fellowship will have access to a graduate student research assistant who provide 280 hours, okay, of support. The only thing about it is I'm not sure you get to hire them. It doesn't sound a little bit like they've hired the person? 280 hours, but that's, that's a lot. Like, that's like 4 TA, like if I had 4 sections of my lab, that would be, so. Over the two-year fellowship, fellows will also receive up to 2 course release over the period of the fellowship, and an additional $5,000 for professional development and further project support. So it sounds like 5,000 total, and then, but what you use it for, like, if you're gonna go on a big trip, well, you're not gonna get money to do the project, but you could have additional. But 280 hours of a research assistant is a pretty good amount, although it's still, might not be enough. So that's a pretty cool one, right? Okay, so.
And nothing is said about what the outcome should be, like
Yeah, it
paper
does.
published or.
Well, it does. I mean, I just couldn't put everything on the slide. I was trying to give you the big picture, right?
Based on 2 years research.
Yes, as a PDF file. Yes, yes.
First time I submitted it, after 3 years, they sent it back to me saying anecdotal evidence of 3 years material, anecdotal evidence. So after 8 years, it became not anecdotal anymore, and they published it.
I have to say, what's the word I'm looking for? The kind of society-based teaching journals are really slow, right? I mean, it took us like over a year to get ours done, and they didn't even recommend any changes. I mean, just to receive it, have somebody review it, and then they just had trivial changes, and we did that, but it was over a year. And like in the end, Dan had submitted one, and he pulled it out when they said, okay, it's going to take us a year to tell you whether or not we accept it.
I'm also talking about high impact
Yeah.
journal. This
Yeah.
is American Chem Society.
Ah.
This is one of the best in the field.
Yeah, but probably the education branches.
Education.
But it's probably not the top priority, right? Could be wrong. Like,
In chemistry,
Yeah.
it's like one of the top priorities.
ah, so their education thing. Huh,
Yep.
okay. Now I've lost track. What was your question specifically?
No, I was.
Oh,
just
outcomes?
thinking, Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, assessment. This includes providing a mechanism for integrating formative feedback into course. Oh, no, that's just priorities.
For
Fellowship
the
terms,
graduate
yes.
students, because I'm kind of signing it, we just provided me 5 pages of work after that award, and that's it. Like as soon as somebody approves it, it's done.
But I mean,
This one, the only thing it says, Elaine, that I can see is
Must be reported.
plan and design, implement and assess. In the phase of this program, fellows will implement their project either in the classroom or through a curriculum review process. Using the assessment mechanisms developed in the first phase of the proposal, fellows will, with the assistance of a graduate student and research assistant, collect and analyze data. Fellows will also be provided with professional development funding, well, that's probably the 5,000, to apply to teaching and learning conferences or otherwise disseminate the findings of their work. So it's pretty flexible in terms of how you would plan on disseminating it. So those are the U of T, but there's actually a couple more U of T awards, and one of them I didn't even know about until I actually looked at this one today. There's this Faculty Award of Excellence. So these are alumni, like the Alumni Association Awards. Faculty Award is presented to a member of the University of Toronto teaching staff who consistently demonstrates excellence both in teaching and research endeavors. Okay, so this is probably going to be the default values. They're thinking tenure stream for this. People who have, so I imagine this was designed for faculty who have strong research programs, but who nonetheless really care about their teaching, right? I think, and I only learned about this award when I was getting ready for this workshop. You know, you might make a case if a person has regularly done scholarship of teaching and learning, that would be their research area, and it might be possible. But but my guess is the default value is kind of for tenure stream, but maybe not. And then we have, yes.
Sorry. Like if I have publications and research.
That's what I'm saying.
And
then I might-
publication and teaching.
Yeah, then I think you can make the argument. Whether, it might be worth a phone call before we went through the process, right? They may look for the nature of the appointment and say, sorry, this award is for tenure
Yeah, if
stream
it's
only,
for-
right? Just
for
like the
them,
other
yeah.
fellowship one is teaching stream only, right? But I think, I at least think it would be a reasonable thing to ask, right? For when you have the both, right? And then there's the Joan E. Foley, Elaine's a winner of this award, Foley Quality of Student Experience Award to a student, alumni, faculty, or administrative staff member who have made a distinctive and lasting contribution to enhancing the quality of undergraduate or graduate student experience at the University of Toronto. So this is another one. And I don't think these are huge applications. Although, this was a decent size, I think, to me, right? Seemed like it was about that thick, right? Biology tried for one once, but not for this one, for the next one. But I don't think these are enormously, like the President's Teaching Academy Award,
It's a big one.
extensive, right? All right, and I'll try to, and then the Northrop Frye Teaching Award. This is to recognize a distinguished achievement in connecting teaching and research, either as an individual faculty member or as a department or division. Like biology, we tried once to get one of these linking, so it's linking research with teaching, or teaching about research, however you want to look at that one, right? And they have an individual award and a collective award. So one of them, in the year we didn't get it, some biology unit downtown got it for, I don't know, redoing their labs. It looked like renovating the labs, but it must have been more than that, right? Maybe I was biased. But, so that's, I think, that's the U of T awards. This one is the one administered by the alumni. They're not as big an application process as those U of T awards. And then the external awards. And again, I've kind of built them up from so we have the Ontario Confederation of University Faculty Associations Teaching Awards, then the 3M National Teaching Award. This is sort of the grand of awards here. And then we have an Alan Blizzard Award, which is more collaborative. I only noticed that now that they've only started offering it every other year. But like, for example, I think our AIM project, like there's like Academic Integrity Matters, and like AACC works on that one, and CTL works on that one, and the Registrar's Office works on that one. I know I'm missing people, but it's a collaboration across divisions to try to really keep students out of trouble with plagiarism. I think that would be kind of an eligible for this one. So this one has to be collaborations, and they really look at, one time we applied for one of those with the stuff we were doing in Foundation Skills for Science and Biology, and one of the comments they said is, this is all impacting, it's not collaborative enough. It was 2 units, it was CTL and Biology. That wasn't enough for them, so they have pretty high stakes. And then the Desire to Learn, Lane, you might actually be able to say more about that award. Like, is it around Innovator Awards? Like, what are they looking for here?
Yeah, it's,
So Lane's already won this award, but you're on the panel now?
well, now I'm the coordinator of the award.
Right. So we have an expert.
All right, so this is very much about your innovation. So how you, and of course, you also want to see your leadership in that kind of innovation. So it's not just within you.
Just one,
yes.
say, get an ITAF
No.
grant and fix
Yeah,
something,
no.
but they want an innovation, but then they want to see some sustained innovation and
Yes,
leadership.
and
Okay.
transferability, applicability in
Right.
other contexts beyond where you try.
Right. So the thing about like, you know, I have this the National Teaching Fellowship, right? And I put an application. Well, so had a UTSC award, and then got the President's Teaching Academy. It took me 2 times, President's Teaching Academy award. Then went for this award, and they said, come back when you've won this one. Right? I mean, they said, why don't you apply for that? Because the 3M one, they're getting hundreds of applications, and they're looking for a way to kind of quickly get some level of validation on it. So that's where I think, you know, especially like in terms of departmental leadership around those, the university has structured the President's Teaching Academy Award to look very much like the 3M Teaching Award, so that they could, if they get, you know, person gets the President's Teaching Academy Award, they maybe do some mentoring of the person, trying to invite them to give some extra, you know, try campus-wide events, so to try to groom them to move forward for a 3M award. But probably almost, in fact, as far as I can tell, everyone nowadays who's coming out of U of T who's won the 3M Teaching Award has first won the OCOFA Award, which is the provincial level of the award, right? So, and then to get to that President's Teaching Academy Award, somewhat they're usually, I don't think it would be impossible to get it without any other awards, especially coming out of a highly competitive unit, but it would be an uphill battle. It'd be good to try to get some kind of award. You know, maybe a person who's consistently getting deemed special merit for teaching, might be able to make, because, you know, after all, there's a certain, some years they just have really lots of good applicants, right? So that's sort of the hierarchy of it, but it's generally not, go back ways, not at all necessary that you won an early career award before winning the big award, because that's a pretty tight clock ticking, right? You know, that you really have to kind of do something in that 3 to 5 year window that's exceptional, because it's not going to probably look at people who've only done a couple of years, right? So not everybody's going to be able to win that early career award. That would not be an impediment at all to getting either the UTSC Associate Professor or Full Professor Award. Wouldn't have to win the early career one. And same thing for downtown, you wouldn't need to get the early career award to get the President's Teaching Academy Award too, because it's just a tight timeline to get that early career award. It just depends who, and I think like the downtown one, we only have one, although we gave 2 last year because one was a lecturer and one was an assistant professor. We just thought we just had to do it. But there's only 4 of those total, right? So, but to go, yeah, so that's the overview. So let me give you some of the tips type of thing. Or unless people have specific questions. You can always follow up with questions on it. Right? And I will be happy to send the 24-page cut and paste document that I created for all of them, right? But I just didn't know how many people will come for which. I just don't want to fill out paper. Okay. All right. So thinking about accepting for the TA award, which is a lower bar here. Usually we want to see some kind of learning activity that the TA has created themselves and good letters from the instructor. But all of the other awards really, in some measure, have some of the same components, which is, a lot of the successful components of a teaching portfolio. Right? So I'm going to sort of so successful award packages require reciprocal engagement between the nominator and the nominee. The days of a surprise, you won the teaching award is just not there anymore, right? I mean, except for the, like the TA award, maybe a sessional instructor, maybe. But because we're really trying to raise the bar, we want people who have a reflective teaching practice, and really they're the people who can provide the evidence that they have, a good teaching practice. So like all of the ways that we assess teaching, we really want evidence of award worthiness that's going to come from 3 sources, right? From the teacher themselves, the teacher's colleagues, and the teacher's students, right? I mean, and that's going to be the principles for an interim review. It's going to be the principles for tenure or a continuing stream. It's going to be the broad principles for even promotion to full professor. What are these 3 perspectives on the person's teaching? That's why it really cannot be much of a secret. But the good news is, like chairs now say, such an elaborate thing to nominate someone. Well, really, the nominee needs to be providing a lot of it. I mean, I know of one case that the person was a long-term, really great teacher in a department, but they, said, it's not important to me to win this award. I just don't want to do all this work. Well, they luckily had like a person who was a graduate student who was so passionate about this person winning the award. They did it. But I mean, they had to keep saying, give me this and I don't have a teaching philosophy. Like, they did, but they had never explicitly stated. This is someone who's been here a long time. So there have been exceptions where someone has basically volunteered to do the amount of the work that the person would do. But most of the time, the real resource is the person's teaching portfolio would be where most of this kind of information would be pulled out of, right? And so all 3 of them are important.
These are only 3 letters, up to 3 letters from the colleagues and up to 3 letters from the
It
students.
depends on the award, right?
Well,
But it's a limited number.
What is UTSC,
Yeah.
like last year?
Well, you sound like I don't ever memorize those things, but it's a limited number.
It changed now,
Yeah.
and it's a limited number.
It's a limited number, right?
Then
But
what-
people always get around it by having an appendix with all these students' letters in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually have something that addresses this a little bit.
Thank you.
The local awards, right? DPES has done this all the time. I mean, in
No,
like a
we
video.
didn't. We
and
didn't.
they-
Last year, we went straight by the requirements, so thank you for letting us know.
And there's like video testimonials, and
No, that was
I'll
recession.
kind of get to that. I mean, and it's actually the specifications of the numbers of letters are in there, but that is. I mean, I'll bring this point up now. It is actually, especially when you're getting the colleague letters, that's limited, right? That's where it really does pay to carefully select the colleagues who can say the most different things, that are flattering, obviously, but who, not, I see them down the hall and they're really generous with their time whenever I ask them a question. Well, that's nice, but you don't want to use up one of your 3 letters on that, right? You want someone who would have a history of working with the person, if at all possible, right?
Claire,
Yes.
I have a question.
So
Shut up.
what is the, I don't know, it's like a chicken and egg, but should the, like a nominator could be chair of the department, right?
Yeah.
So like you have to wait until chair approaches to you and say.
Well, you don't
I-
have to wait. You
No.
could. Right,
No.
right,
But it's
right.
not like I
Right.
can just go to the chair and I want to apply to someone.
Well, I don't think I would do it like that. I would say, I take great pride in my teaching. And personally, I would really like the learning experience of putting forward a nomination. And actually, you do get, it is a real learning experience, right? When you put yourself out there like that. But so I'd say, and especially if you're in CTL, so you might be saying, it really would be another level of certification for you. So you wouldn't just say, I think I deserve this. You don't want to use the I deserve, I earned, I'm worthy. But like, teaching is really a passion for me, and I put a lot of my efforts into it. And I would be honored to move forward for something like this, and would be willing to do these components of the award, right? So that, and that's it doesn't have to be a chair either, right? It could be like
Not
students.
necessarily chair undergraduates or student.
Yeah, but the associate chair is going to talk to the chair about it. I mean, that, but I think we put in a provision that the chair has to sign off on it, but that's not quite the same thing, right? So like Effie Sauer in chemistry was nominated by a student, right? And then that student spent, they did a really professional job on it, right? But usually the students usually will mentor the students, type thing. But the student did an amazing amount just independently. So it does not have to come from the chair, but the chair will have to sign off on it. You know what I mean? Sort of.
And if it's a student, make sure you work with the student anyways, because that was my mistake first time my student applied.
But I'm really nervous about
Like, I
the
mean,
nominee working with the student. That's
No, I mean,
Right.
not work, not enough.
yeah, but I would say it would be
like
better, right? If there was a student that was going to nominate you, it'd be better they worked with me,
Oh, like
not work with you
somebody.
directly. Like, and if you were nominated for it, I don't think, because the power relationship is too weird that way, right?
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? It should be, the student should not be working with the person who's being nominated. They should be working with someone else, right? Like, we had another student-led nomination last year, and that student kind of worked with the chair, coordinated with the
Yeah.
chair of that department, because it could be too weird, right? So I would get a close colleague to work, with it, just a little bit, to make
But like
a
what I
little
wanted
distance.
to say is just we should not be working alone, otherwise we're still students. We don't know how to do it properly.
Yeah.
that-
But this student did an amazing job.
Like I know that
It was
student,
exceptional.
wasn't
She was a
my
mature
fault.
student. It was a mature
Just very
student, yeah.
mature
To
student.
clarify, you
Yes.
will be emailing this to us.
You should email me and ask for it,
Okay.
right? So, that's. And that's an F, okay, at UTSC.edu. .ca. Yeah, and then I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
And it's not super polished. I mean, I just cut and paste. I was just trying to,
No, that's fine.
I was trying to get
wrote
all the
down most
information
of it,
into one
but
spot.
I just thought, that'd be handy to.
Yeah, it is handy, because like, who can remember 1 letter, 2 letter, 3 letter, not me, right? So, okay, so, oh yeah. So, it used to be, like, when that 10 really fantastic student letters, showing the impact you had on their lives, it's enough to win an award. It's not that way anymore, right? There has to be a wow factor, but it has to be anchored in a really solid, pedagogically founded, application, right? So the modern awards now require evidence of strong pedagogical principles put into action in the classroom. The portion of the package done by the nominee or someone who's looking at the nominee's teaching portfolio is very important. Now, not as much for the UTSC Teaching Award, okay? But anything beyond the UTSC Teaching Award has to be really pedagogically sound, looking like, really following pedagogical principles, evidence-based, and impacting beyond their own classroom. Right? For the local award, just an amazingly compassionate, effective teacher not just, but but that people have won the award for that. But on the other hand, if there's 2 applications, one who has, 2 people who both are that amazingly compassionate, committed educators, and one clearly has a firmer grasp on the evidence type thing, is likely going to win that award. Now, it's always a little bit of a roll of the dice in terms of there's so many good teachers now, right? But the downtown ones, they're the people who are adjudicating it, or like Carol Rollheiser. I was on the adjudication once as a member of the teaching academy, so it's people who know what what pedagogy best practices are going to look like, right? So everybody, whether or not you want to, the best thing to do is have a strong, concise teaching portfolio, right? Which is a good idea. It improves person's teaching anyway. It's a good idea for pulling out things at the end of the year for the annual activity report, which hopefully more and more departments are looking at the quality of the teaching when they're doing the PGR assessments. But then they come in really handy for a teaching award, right? So that's the first thing to do. That is not a waste of time, no matter what happens, right? But the teaching award is going to have to be more selective than the portfolio. The portfolio should already be selective, but the award document can have to be even more selective, because it's just not. It can't be as long as your average teaching portfolio. Although some teaching portfolios are pretty concise, right? Now, when we're talking about the wow factor, if you will, the nominator needs to be very selective in the limited number of letters that are included, right? And ideally provide the letter writers with the award criteria. Don't just say, hey, we're nominating Alana for a teaching award, could you write a supporting letter? But say, look, this is the award, it's a pretty hard to get award, these are the criteria. As much as, if you can speak to these criteria, that would enhance the value of the letter, right? And this more relates to the letters to colleagues and students. I think I would, give the students the criteria too, but I just feel sensitive about not, don't want to coerce, I don't want any kind of sign, can't coerce faculty. They're virtually impossible to coerce, right? But students are pretty vulnerable, want to be helpful, blah, blah, blah. So, but really we're talking about more for the colleague letters. For the students, best idea is ask 10 and then use the best 5. Whatever the limit is, try to ask widely, because it's almost always like our award is close to when the students are in exams, right? They may have just finished the exams and things like that. So you might ask 10, you might only get 6 people responding, and then you pick the best 3. So ask more than you need. It's perfectly okay to go with the letters that are.
But then I nominated my TA and who won UTSC award. I actually submitted that criteria for the TA nomination to students, asking if possible, could you look at that criteria?
Yeah, that's fine.
And I was surprised by the quality of letters they provided to
Some
you.
of the students are amazing professionals.
They're amazing, yeah. You need to pick the right students, and then you will get a good letters. That's why.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Just you give them the criteria, you tell them what the award's for, but you don't say be sure.
No. I didn't say this. I
Right,
said look, please look at the criteria if possible.
Yeah. Yes.
For the UTSC awards, I teach in the graduate department, the psychology program that's here. Those student letters okay, even though they're from graduate students?
Yeah, that's what you have to have, I think, right?
Yeah.
What do you teach?
In the clinical psych program, the PhD program here.
Yeah, cool. So you apply for ITF grants, you can't apply for LEAP grants.
Yeah.
Unless you could link it to the undergraduate program.
Yeah, I do a little undergrad teaching, but mostly grad.
And they will take LEAP grants from, say, Faculty of Medicine, example, if it's linked to some undergraduate courses or can be immediately transferable. Just a side story there. Okay. So follow the guidelines carefully, right? Do provide all of the requested course evaluations. This is the area where we get the biggest problems. Like CTL is willing to do the tables, right? And I think that's the preferred way to do it, right? But people can't pick and choose student comments, because we're trying to follow the downtown one, right? It's either include a course with all the comments, right? Or like the nominator could pick and choose what to highlight in the nomination letter, right? But the people reviewing the file would want to see all of the ones from that course type of thing, right? So do follow the guidelines on the student comments, which I just told you about. Do follow the guidelines on electronic submission, page limits, number of letters, etc. Now here's the part that I was talking about. For the UTSC awards, Usually committees are okay with volunteered supplemental materials, okay? I've never heard anybody saying, I'm not gonna vote for this person because they included this thing that was not listed, okay? Right? So we would not usually eliminate people but may not read it, right? So the point I would say is like, make sure your best 3 letters, right, are the ones that are included, and any extra ones would be in an appendix type of thing, right? So it's a gamble, right? But so always make sure what your best foot is forward within the page limits, within the number that you can provide. Appendices, usually people either just say, I'm not reading that, or else they read it if it's something they're interested in. But I've never heard of them disqualifying for a UTSC award based on having volunteered extra material. But beyond UTSC award, absolutely disqualified. Don't follow the limits, page limits. They're all electronic, so it's easy to count the words, the pages, the format. So completely, strictly follow the guidelines once it's beyond U of T. I'm not sure about the U of T alumni awards. My guess is they might be a little bit looser, those 3 that were the alumni awards. But the President's Teaching Academy one, the Young Investigator one, UCOFA, 3M, all the way up the ladder, those are strict guideline followers. Okay. So the committee, at least so I've been on the only ones I've been on is like the UTSC one and the 3M, I'm not sorry, the President's Teaching Academy, I'm going to say 3M because I'm retired. But, so they're looking for pedagogically strong, reflective, and I put critically reflective, but reflective teaching practices, okay? Outstanding, this is what usually, in a tight field, like, it's the one that has outstanding learning opportunities, right? Imaginative learning opportunities. Like, I think a person who has, pedagogically strong, critically reflective teaching practice, year in, year out, strong learning, might win the award, right? But in a year when they're in a competition with someone who's just done some things that are dazzling, the dazzler is probably going to, unless the other person's about to retire, then, maybe, okay? So strong, broadly based testimonies of impact on the teaching on students, right? And like one year we had an award nomination, and all of the student letters were from people who were now graduate students of the person. Now, graduate students of a person are a good source of letters for graduate education, right? That's what you'd expect. But there was no undergraduate letters from people who were not the person's graduate students, right? So that's a weakness, because again, there's that little bit of you expect those letters to be talking about their experience with graduate education, but it would have been a much stronger application if it had some letters from current undergraduates type of thing, right, who were in a different kind of relationship, right? So broad base. So if a person teaches a lot of different courses, it would probably be good, if possible, to have letters from different courses. And I would say to let the students say something about what course, they know the professor through this course or that course type of thing, right? So, right. And it's fair game learning inside and outside the class. Some people will, their dazzle will come from something that they've done that's outside the classroom, right? But they do need to be a teacher. But there can be, a lot of people contribute to learning beyond their classroom, right? And then here's where we go, significant contributions to the teaching enterprise beyond one's own classroom. Now that is not an absolute must-have for the UTSC Teaching Award. It's an asset, but the bar would be not as would be helping colleagues in their own department, influencing what's going on in their own department. Wouldn't be expecting it to be tri-campus level of impact, right? But the more you go from the local awards up the ladder, like President's Teaching Academy, they're going to want to see how is the person contributing to the academy, to our teaching enterprise writ large. Not necessarily tri-campus, but at least strongly at your own campus, I think. So the bigger the award, the more this comes into play. All right. So the award document needs to be well-focused, concise, and easy to navigate. I can't overemphasize the easy to navigate. A really good table of content is important, right? Nominating letter needs to help the reader put the materials in context and hit the high points, right? Really, the nominating letters are super important, right? To help really focus the reader on what's important. Good, like I said this already, good table of contents. Be sure to be accurate, right? And including work that was done collaborative to be sure the nominee's role is clear. okay? I've seen nomination packages that over-listed accomplishments and it was negative, right? And I don't mean they made it up, but maybe they had a minor role in 7 things and strong roles in 4, right? But if the more of those kind of minor roles you list, somebody on the committee knows about it and go, oh, geez, that was a day's work. You know what I mean? And then it all of a sudden starts putting in doubt the things that really look substantial and were enough to win the award with anyway, right? So I would tend to say, you know, think of the high impact things and use those. The rest of the stuff can kind of be, you know, in a CV or something like that, you know, in the service areas, but make sure that they can all be, you know, that they're all clear. And sometimes people collaborate on something very significant, and that's fine, right? But just make sure that the roles are quite clear. All right. Yeah, and I think I've already talked about this one. You know, less is sometimes more, right? Especially if you say the big thing first, and then there's so many little things, the person might forget about the big thing, right? I mean, most of the time, people are going to be reading these, you know, in the 48 hours before they go to the sessions, right? You know, so you want the big impact things to stay big impact in the people's brain. Oh, yes, that's it. Yeah, yes, that was it. So, yeah, I got a few more minutes for questions, but I can, anyone who sends me an email, I'll send, you know, the whole, for that matter, the electronic of the thing I've already circulated by paper, too. Okay. And we have feedback things, and this is only the second time I'm doing this. I probably didn't mean, I'm perfectly happy for you to tell me what you wish I really had said instead of what I did say. Right? I mean, I really, you know, need feedback more than I would say normally. I'm looking for feedback. So any things about, oh, it'd be really helpful to have had da-da-da-da, I'm good with that. Right? So, and you, for that matter, if you don't mind, if you want to send to my email, that's good too. Whatever you guys like better. I got a thick enough skin now that I think I can. I'm just trying to get these workshops so that we get lots of teaching awards and lots of grants, especially the grants. You know, the people. One thing I will sort of say is that,
like you clarified so many of my
oh,
things.
good.
That's like
Because
I
think we
I
could.
missed those workshops and like I really wanted to hear
Well, good.
what the great. I'm just glad I came
Yeah,
today.
because you know the teaching awards are such that a lot of good teachers won't get teaching awards, right? And a lot of it's luck, you know. But we should get all of our teaching. You know what I mean? We should be able to get the teaching grants that are going to really propel us, and we'll still get a lot. And let's get a lot of. You know, U of T really has made a high priority because like University of Alberta gets more than us. I'm like, how can that be?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.